You were obviously the one driving the vehicle, right? Nobody else was controlling it somehow? So I'm requesting that you take a breathalyzer test. It's a voluntary test. So none of the tests are pass or fail. Are you willing to do the breathalyzer test? Right. No, I understand you want to go home. You're involved in a crash. Right. I smell alcohol coming from your breath. I can see you're very unsteady on your feet.
The California Highway Patrol finally releasing dashcam video of Paul Pelosi when he was arrested for drunk driving following a crash that injured another driver in Napa, California last May. This coming just hours after the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi pled guilty to a misdemeanor charge of driving under the influence. Let's bring in Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley, a George Washington University Law School professor. Jesse Watters Primetime, his show was on top of this from the very beginning, asking for more information, asking for documents to be released, filing the FOIA request to make sure that they got information. They finally got it last night. And this video shows exactly what happened, Professor.
Yeah, and people are troubled because there's a concern about special treatment. There was a concern about his referring to his status, giving a card indicating that he gives money to the police. All of that created rather bad optics. In the end, the sentence was not that far off the baseline in terms of where these sentences often land. There's good arguments on both sides. Some people say, well, it could have been charged as felony since the victim is still complaining about physical injuries that are lingering. But it really does show more, I think, the growing distrust that the public has that our legal system is truly blind.
So they offered him a breathalyzer on the scene. That's on the dash cam video. That did not happen. And a period of 2 hours wore on before they took blood from the system. You could argue that, you know, some of the alcohol level dissipated at that point. Anyway, he tested .082. Which is over the legal limit, just by a nudge there. He gets 3 years probation, restitution to the victim, a 3-month DUI program, and will have a certified ignition device installed on his vehicle for a year. Is that all within the boundaries here, Professor?
I think it is, quite frankly. The arguments for higher charges and for more strict sentencing are not without basis. You know, there are aspects of this case that could warrant that, but a lot of these cases land right around where we saw Pelosi. There is some question about the delay in releasing information, the resistance on mugshots and the dash cam that is not quite as common. But I think that part of it that we have to sort of deal with is in fact this growing distrust that people feel that particularly state prosecutors, but in some cases federal prosecutors, approach these cases with a bias. That's a sort of question of faith and trust in our legal system that we have to have a greater conversation about. I think certain cases like Hunter Biden and other high controversies in the press have undermined that trust. I think you saw that with the Trump raid, that people just quickly went to their corners. Some just had little trust in what the Justice Department was saying, and others had total trust.
Let's just hear from Allison Haley. She's the Napa County District Attorney. She spoke to Fox News yesterday. Here she is.
When we evaluated the nature of our survivors' injuries and so forth, in keeping with how we handle every other case, the charging decision was made as a misdemeanor. His injuries were there and certainly a result of the crash, but not the kind of injuries that we see in a felony case, like lacerated livers or disfiguring lacerations or broken bones.
And that might be what the law says there, right? So different states might have a different way to basically measure that in terms of the harm to the victim. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the key here is that both Pelosi and the victim decided not to go to the hospital. They decided that their injuries were not serious enough for that type of medical attention. I think that probably played into the charging decisions.
Professor, thank you. Jonathan Turley, we're waiting on the video. We finally got it. Nice to see you.
Good for Jesse. I mean, they really stayed on top of it.
In prime time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.